reaction there from Calais. Let's speak now to Alexander Betts. He's a professor in refugee and forced migration studies at Oxford University and joins us now. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. The timing of the British government's decision to allow more Syrian refugees to come to the country, but only from those camps bordering Syria. What do you make of it?
The government position has undergone a turnaround this week. As recently as Wednesday, the Prime Minister said taking more refugees from the Middle East was not the answer. But the death of Aylan Kurdi has shocked public opinion in Britain and across Europe and led to a turnaround in government opinion. Now the Prime Minister is changing dramatically. For the last few months, the government has depicted people coming as a swarm, as marauding, has denied that people coming from Calais and across the Mediterranean are actually refugees. There's a shift, but actually the shift is a little limited and possibly quite cynical. Indeed, we are seeing that the policy is only a continuation of existing policies. It's about taking resettled refugees from camps in the region, it's about bolstering humanitarian support to the region, but it does nothing to share responsibility with European partners or to address people coming from Calais or moving across Europe.
But might it mean that we can avoid scenes that we're looking at the moment in Hungary of people feeling so compelled to take matters into their own hand? They go on the march towards Austria. If people know that there's a safer route through from the Syrian camps in Turkey and places like that, they might decide that that's a better way to try to get to Western Europe.
I think resettlement is a very welcome contribution. It provides an alternative route by which vulnerable Syrians can come to Europe and to the UK. It's definitely welcome. But in addition to that, the UK has to work with the European Union on a new deal for responsibility sharing to address the needs of asylum seekers who are also coming spontaneously through Europe. And the current proposals do nothing to engage with that.
There's been criticism of journalists, I mean, the BBC amongst them, for using the word migrant rather than making the differentiation that some are refugees. What impact has that had, do you think, on the story and the crisis itself?
I think the real criticism has been on the use of migrant crisis, when actually a more accurate description is a refugee crisis. Now, actually that crisis isn't necessarily a crisis of numbers, it's been a crisis of politics, if anything. But I think one of the problems early on is that the use of the language by the BBC and others of migrant crisis has led to a portrayal, including by governments, of most people as economic migrants, as somehow unworthy of coming to the United Kingdom. Many are refugees, most in fact are refugees, and they have rights under international law to come spontaneously to Europe, including to the UK, and seek asylum. But on the other hand, we shouldn't stigmatise other migrants. Other migrants also have human rights. And so I think there's a danger that we shouldn't necessarily dismiss the word migrant or dismiss other migrants, even if this is predominantly a refugee crisis.
Professor Alexander Betts from Oxford University, thank you very much for talking to us.